أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا صلى الله عليه وسلم عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما قال سبحانه وتعالى في القرآن المجيد والفرقان الحميد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا نودي للصلاة من يوم الجمعة فاسعوا إلى ذكر الله وذروا البيع ذلكم خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون صدق الله العظيم وصدق على رسوله النبي الكريم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وأصحابه وأزواجه وأتباعه وأوليائك وعلمائك وشهدائك وبارك وسلم صلى الله تعالى عليه وسلم. In Allah's name, the most merciful and compassionate. Allah Azza wa Jal has our deepest gratitude and devotion. We recognize His magnificence and turn to Him for guidance, sustenance, and forgiveness. We seek His protection from the evil of our actions, from the evil within us, and the evil around us. When Allah guides someone, no power in the universe can lead them astray. And when Allah misleads one, no one can bring them back to the correct path through guidance. I bear witness that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only deity worthy of worship, and I recognize Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam as His devoted servant and messenger. An abundance of durood and salawat upon the best of creation, the crown of creation, the jewel of creation. Nabi Kareem rahmatan lil alameen, our master Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam, his noble family, his blessed companions, and the honorable wives. I greet all ulama, ahlul sadat, elderly and youth, those present and those watching via social media, with the peace and blessings of Assalamu Alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, now we have reached the second Yawmul Jumu'ah of the blessed month of Sha'ban al-Mu'azzam. And on this day, I have been ordered to speak about a topic. And this topic is one that most of us, if not all, think we know a lot about. This topic is one that, though some of us may know a lot about, often we are not applying it in our daily lives. The topic I have been ordered to speak about is the benefits of the day of Jumu'ah. Now, to start to understand the benefits of the day of Jumu'ah, we have to understand the history of the day of Jumu'ah and why it is so significant. And to begin with, I would like to talk about the word Jumu'ah. The word Jumu'ah, in the etymological definition, is derived from the Arabic word Jama'ah, which means to congregate or a gathering. This is where the word Jumu'ah is derived from. And scholars have prescribed two sources of why the day of Friday is called Jumu'ah. The first being the more obvious one, as the Muslims all gather on the day of Friday. However, the second definition and source we learn about is that on the time before humanity was created, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered the malaika to gather the soil or the clay to build and sculpt us humans at this time on the day of Jumu'ah. So one of the reasons Jumu'ah is called Jumu'ah is because this gathering of the clay, meaning gathering of what we are created of. This is why Jumu'ah is called Jumu'ah. And Jumu'ah is praised in the Quran, in Surah Al-Jumu'ah as well. It is the 62nd surah of the Quran. And in the 9th ayah, which is the one I recited in the khutbah, we learn and we get an understanding of what Jumu'ah is for. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, O people who believe, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, when the call for prayer is given on the day of congregation, the day of Jumu'ah, rush towards the remembrance of Allah. Fas'au ila dhikrillah, and stop buying and selling. This is better for you if you understand. Now let's dissect this ayah. O people who believe, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses us, the believers, the nation of Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. And here we understand a hukam. We understand that Friday, the prayer of Friday, is a hukam for the believers. We understand its significance just from the start of the ayah. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, when the adhan of Jumu'ah, the day of congregation, again, the definition of Jumu'ah is here as well, the day of congregation. When the adhan, you hear the adhan, rush towards the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and stop buying and selling. Now when we analyze the ayah, if you learn the fiqh of Jumu'ah and Salah in general, you know you are not supposed to rush towards Jumu'ah. You are not supposed to physically rush towards Salah. This is consensus among ulama. We are not supposed to rush towards Jumu'ah Salah or any Salah for that matter in terms of Jama'at. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying rush towards the remembrance of Allah, meaning rush towards Jumu'ah. So what is the meaning of this? When we understand, the meaning here means hasten. Fas'aw. This is referring to a spiritual hastening. Our hearts, our souls to be rushing to go and do the dhikr of Allah. Go and do the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala means here. Rush towards Jumu'ah in a spiritual aspect, in terms of our souls. We understand here that we have to put our intention towards coming to Jumu'ah. And this starts from the day before. This starts from having that intention. Whether you are going to school or university, whether you are working, whether it is your business, you should have this intention to leave whatever that is. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, stop buying and selling in the marketplace. At that time, this was the main dunya. For us, we have many different things, but the concept is the same. Leave the dunya and come towards the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We understand that this is what it means. Rush towards leaving the dunya. Rush towards the masajid. And here we continue to learn that it is better for us if we understand. Constantly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us in the Quran, it is better for us if we understand. And the best place to understand in itself is the masjid. Now when we continue to understand the significance of Jumu'ah, we come to learn about its historical significance. One of the most significant aspects is Jumu'ah in our history. And one of the most important times was the time of Sayyidina Adam. Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam himself was created on the day of Jumu'ah. Meaning the day of Jumu'ah was the beginning of humanity. As Sayyidina Adam was Abu al-Insan. He was the father of Insan, humanity. So we understand that Adam alayhi salam was created on the day of Jumu'ah. And Adam alayhi salam entered Jannah on the day of Jumu'ah. And Adam alayhi salam came to earth, or was expelled from Jannah on the day of Jumu'ah. And then Adam alayhi salam was pardoned for his error on the day of Jumu'ah. We continue to learn about the significance throughout history. We go to Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam. In Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam, he reached the shore from the guidance of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Nur, on the day of Jumu'ah. And then we understand that on Yawm al-Qiyamah, the horn, the trumpet that will be blown, will be on the day of Jumu'ah. So if you look at all these events, and there are more as well, but these specifically, we understand the significance, we notice one thing. all of these events are a beginning for us. All of these events are a beginning. Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam being created was the beginning of humanity. Being sent to Jannah was the beginning of reward. Being sent to earth was the beginning of reproduction and itself. Adam alayhi salam being pardoned was the beginning of the nikah again. Nuh alayhi salam, this was the second beginning of humanity. And then Yawmul Qiyamah, this will be the beginning of the Akhirah. So we understand here that these days of Jumu'ah are a beginning for us. And so we have to have the iman that for us Muslims, the first day of the week is not Monday, it is not Sunday. The first day of the week is Friday. It is our new beginning for us. We should have this intention that this Jumu'ah, every Jumu'ah we will do better than we did the last, as it is a beginning for us. And Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam said, verily Allah has made this day of Friday a celebration for the Muslims. A celebration for the Muslims. So from this we understand what is a celebration, a day of celebration. It is the day of Eid. So we understand from this that the day of Jumu'ah is also a day of Eid for us. And now when we come towards learning about the actual rewards that we can get today of Jumu'ah, we have many countless hadith. Of the first we speak about is those who enter the masajid on the day of Jumu'ah. Sayyidina Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala an narrated the hadith regarding how the angels stand at the gates of the mosque and they have scrolls and they have their qalam and they record who entered the masjid at what time, in what time period. And then we know from the hadith that Jabir ibn Abdullah radiallahu ta'ala an narrated that the first to enter the masjid, the first of the people, meaning the first of the people in the first period of time who enter the masjid, they will be given the reward as if they sacrificed a camel in the way of Allah. Allahu Akbar. And then those who enter after that in the second period of time, they will be given the reward as if they sacrificed a cow in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then it continues in terms of the third period of time. It is either a sheep or a goat sacrificed in the way of Allah. And then we have a duck. Those who come after that, it is as if they sacrificed a duck in the way of Allah. And then the next one we have is a chicken. Those who enter after that is as if they sacrificed a chicken in the way of Allah. And finally we have the last of the people who enter, it is as if they sacrificed an egg. And after this, when the Imam stands on the pulpit to give the khutbah, the angels wrap up their scrolls and they toss them aside. And they come and sit for the wajib al-khutbah. So from this we understand two things. First, we understand the significance of coming early to Jumu'ah and being here for the bayan and the wajib al-khutbah. And second, we understand that when we are listening to the wajib al-khutbah, there are angels with us as well. There are angels sitting here listening to the wajib al-khutbah. We understand to pay attention and not be distracted. Another great benefit of the day of Jumu'ah, as I explained before, is it is a beginning for us. And in this way, the Friday to Friday prayer can be an expiation for our minor sins in between. Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam said, if a man takes a bath on Friday, cleans himself as much as he can, oils his hair, applies perfume available in his home, sets forth to the masjid, does not separate two people to make a seat for himself, performs as many prayers as prescribed by Allah for him, and remains silent when the Imam speaks, his sins between the Friday and the following Friday will be forgiven. This was narrated by Salman al-Farsi in Sahih al-Bukhari. And let's dissect this hadith again. Here we understand the first most significant thing is the sunnah of purification on the day of Jumu'ah. We understand that the hadith starts with if a man takes a bath on Friday. So here we understand the significance of doing ghusl and then cleaning ourselves as much as we can, following the sunnah ghair al-mu'akkada of doing ghusl on the day of Jumu'ah. And then the sunnah continues, oiling our hair and applying perfume. These are other aspects of the sunnah that we have to try and follow on the day of Jumu'ah. And then it continues, setting forth for the mosque and not separating two people. What does this mean? In its aspect, we understand not separating two people in the saf, not coming inside and not disturbing the jama'ah. This is what it refers to. Not coming inside and disturbing the jama'ah, not making noise, not rushing towards salah so you don't disturb the people who are praying salah or listening to the imam. And this also refers to, in our modern time, outside. not disturbing any people outside, not parking obnoxiously so the people are disturbed. These are all aspects of not disturbing people. This is what Islam teaches us. As Muslims, we have to abide by this. Whether it's parking, whether it's inside the masjid, whether it's leaving your stuff around, we have to follow these simple concepts so we can follow the sunnah correctly. And then it continues in terms of the most important aspect as to why we are here, which is our prayers, which is our worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? This is what we are here for. So do not be distracted. Do not be on your phones. Do not just pray your 2 fard of Jumu'ah and just leave. This is not what we are here for. We are here to pray and worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala correctly. And then remaining silent when the Imam speaks. When the Imam gives the khutbah, as I said before, the angels are with us when the Imam is giving the khutbah. We have to be very careful at this time as well. So then we continue that the hadith continues. His sins between that Friday and the next Friday will be forgiven. This refers to our minor sins. So here we understand the significance of actually coming to Jumu'ah and following the routine of Jumu'ah in the correct way. Another great reward is for the person who prays, makes dua at the correct time. Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam said, there is a time on it, i.e. Friday, at which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants the request of any Muslim servant who at this time happens to be asking Allah for something while standing in salah. And the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam indicated with his hand that this period of time is very short. It's narrated by Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala an, Al-Bukhari and Al-Muslim. So from this we understand that we have to take advantage of the day of Jumu'ah by making dua as much as we can. As much as we can, we should be praying to Allah. This is the best time for us to request what we want. Request for the goodness in our lives and the goodness in our akhirah. And then one very, very vital thing to understand, the last hadith I would like to mention, is in terms of this following hadith narrated by Abdullah ibn Amr in Sunan al-Tirmidhi. No Muslim passes away on Friday or its night, but that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will protect him from the trial of the grave. Allahu Akbar. One of the greatest benefits of the day of Jumu'ah and greatest virtues of the day of Jumu'ah is for the one who passes away on this day. And the day in the Islamic calendars start after the Maghrib Salah. So after Thursday night on the Maghrib Salah, from this period until Maghrib Salah today, on Friday, this 24 hours or so, any person who passes away during this time period, they will be protected from the fitna of the qabr. We understand the value of the day of Jumu'ah in itself. And these are the greatest benefits. And of this we have to understand, and we should pray that we are allowed, we are given the good concept of being able to pass away on the day of Jumu'ah. And we are also given Husn al-Khatimah. Ya Allah, allow us to pass away on the day of Friday with Husn al-Khatimah. Ya Allah, help the besieged all around the world. Ya Allah, help those Muslims who are suffering all around the world. Whether it's in Palestine, China, Bangladesh, Pakistan, anywhere, India, doesn't matter. Ya Allah, allow them all to be besieged. Allow them to be helped. Ameen Ya Rabbil Alameen.